The recording has started. I'm going to mute and everything is in your hands now. Thank you. All the best.
Okay, afternoon, everyone. My name is Rido Mashao. I'll be your building QS for today. I have a couple of years of experience, but I'm sure most of you might even have even further experience. So what we're going to try to do in this presentation is answer some of the questions, some of the problems that were established when Lunga was busy with his first presentation, and through research in some of the areas to try and answer some of those questions. So what we are going to do, I'm going to quickly show you how to actually build up a rate, like a normal rate. Before you put it into a tender, how can you build up a rate so that
Okay, you just went mute on us. Rido, if you can hear us, please unmute and proceed.
hello? Are we still together?
Yeah, you muted. So if you can repeat yourself a bit on the last part, then you can carry on from there. Thank you.
Can you guys still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Go ahead, we can hear you clearly.
Yes, talk to us.
We can hear you.
Okay, no problem. Now I can also hear you guys. We might be having a bit of network challenges, but I think we'll be good until the end of the presentation. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to walk you through how to build up a rate so that you can be able to understand the cost that went into your rate, and also the other person can be, you can be able to understand, to explain it to the following person how you got to the rate you came to. So in order to be able to do that, you need to firstly conduct a site visit. Site visits are very helpful in terms of you'll be able to understand how you're going to set up your site. You'll be able to understand the specific challenges that come with the site that you're going to be working at. For example, you can find that in the site that you're going to build, you're going to be building in, there'll be two structures that you need to coordinate with the neighbors of that site, or maybe there are specific municipality related costs that you will need to account for when you're busy pricing. So it's important to do a site visit, not only for yourself, but also to be able to provide a comprehensive rate. And then once you have visited your site and understand what is going on in that site, the next thing that you need to do is read and understand the requirements and specifications. So what this means is that we can just be saying this is a building, but then every building has specifications specific to that building. It's not just a door. Is it a hardwood door? Is it a hollow core door, for example? You know, is it smooth plaster or is it rough plaster? For example, that specifications, when you talk about concrete, the type of concrete that will be there, the type of mix that will be there. Sometimes the drawings are very helpful in terms of maybe, let's say you are requested to do a specific window, where the window openings of that specific window and how much will it cost in that area. So just understanding those specifics will be able then to encourage you to look deeper into that rate, and then break down all works to activities. What this means is that you need to break down to say, okay, when I'm saying windows, what do I mean? Is there installation in that rate? The cost of buying it, all the activities that go into installing that window, what are they? Do you need scaffolding to go and install that window, for example? Break it down to those tiny little bits so that you can be able to provide a comprehensive rate. Assign resources to activities. The type of resources that you will need in order for you to achieve that window installation, for an example, or to achieve that plastering, for example, and all that. You realize that in my examples, I'm referring too much into building works because that's what I specialize in, and that's what I'll be presenting in moving forward. And then number 5, determine specialist services and obtain quotations. So, for example, as contractors, we are aware that you don't specialize in every single bit of thing in a construction. So, wherever you are going to need specialists, you need to identify that I will need a specialist here. I don't have subcontractors for this work. I'll need a specialist for this work. I don't specialize in roofing. I need somebody to quote me on roofing. Don't go and assume a price, because for those who specialize, I think even when other presenters come in, mechanical and electrical, you will pick up that specialist work needs specialized people to actually do it. Assign cost of all resources. So it's important that every single bit needs to be accounted for, cost in a cost way, so that everything is paid for. Your reason for tendering for any work is to make a profit. But if you miss any cost, you didn't account for other costs, you stand a chance of running a loss. So it's important for you to make sure that, oh, I accounted for this. I accounted for my QS. There, I put it on my preliminaries and generals. Oh, I accounted for my spade. Oh, there, I put it on the tools. You account for every single bit so that you don't underprice. And then convert final units to BOQ units. So what normally happens is that you go to the shop. At the shop, they're selling a 50 kg bag of cement, maybe at 89 Rand, for an example. But you're going to go and price in plastering on the BOQ. So in the BOQ, they don't tell you that they need a bag of sand. They tell you they need plastering in meters squared. So always convert that bag into meters squared. It's either at the end or at the beginning of your rate. But always know that, oh, this bag of cement, when I convert it to meters squared, what is it and how much is it and how do I convert that? You'll understand this better when I try and share my example with you. And then it says, add markup for profit, overhead, risks, handling, etc. So always make sure that you account for your profit and you know how much it is in your BOQ. So that means your profit, you need to say, oh, maybe I added a profit of 10%, 15%, or whatever profit that is there. Overheads, mostly overheads in the building industry, we normally account for them on the preliminaries and generals, but overheads for that subcontractor if you are dealing with a specific trade that you will be subcontracting. And then once you are done with everything, you need to transfer the final rates into your BOQ. So that is how you then build up your rates. Then the 5 common mistakes that we normally find people make. 1, you put incorrect unit costs. And that means the example of the bag that I was making, the 50 kg bag that I was making, that people you find you put a bag is 89, and then when you transfer it into your BOQ, you put it as 89 without converting it, excluding site location. That means when you're busy pricing, you're sitting in Gauteng and you're pricing for a tender in Western Cape, you realize that the prices in Western Cape are different from the prices that are in Gauteng. So that means you need to account that, oh, I will be getting my material from subcontractors in Western Cape instead of Gauteng. So let's try and look into that. Misinterpretation of specifications. So if, for example, an engineer needs a specific something and you have misinterpreted it, you can find that you are running a loss in terms of, they said they need a 50-watt light, and then when you say no, they need a 20 something watt something light. So that means it's two different things. So that's why I was saying specifications are very important. Incorrect man-hour productivity assumption. You will understand this further when I do the example. So what does this mean? It means that when plastering, you know that you will need maybe a plaster who's somebody who's skilled, and you will need maybe 2 hands, people who are not skilled. Your darker boys will be mixing for you those darkers, and maybe they take about a whole day to do about 10 square meters of plastering. So if you assume those things incorrectly, it means that you might find yourself in a space where you have assumed that your plaster hand is going to finish the work today, and you're going to only pay them until today, only to find that no, they will finish maybe 2 weeks down the line. That means who's going to account for those 2 weeks that you didn't account for in your pricing? So it's always important to do that. Seeking quotation from incompetent and irrelevant suppliers and subcontractors. So what we normally do is that, you know, somebody who knows something about something, in terms of you instead of going direct to the person who sells that air conditioner, for example, you go to a third party supplier who will already have inflated the price and might not even have the relevant price that you're looking for. So always make sure that you're contacting somebody who specializes in what you are looking for, so that they don't underprice you or overprice you. So always make sure that those things are in the correct place. So there are many mistakes that as QSs we make, but we have just stipulated just these 5. So you can think of many mistakes that people make up to so far. Before I think, no, let me go into the example, and then I'll take your questions at the end of the presentation. I think that's the best way to handle it. Lunga, can you please project the example for me? Can we just zoom in? They're not really visible.
You still can't see it?
Zoom in a little further.
You know what I can do? I can PDF this, because in PDF you can zoom in very nicely without skewing the view. So let me quickly do that.
Can we not get this presentation in soft copy, like maybe be emailed to us, or can we download it from somewhere?
Yeah, just hang on. Just hang on. We note your request.
Okay, so the example that we have prepared is a really straightforward kind of example for building works. But what I wanted to focus on is some of the things that I had.
Hi, Rido. I see once again you have muted your mic. Please unmute and proceed.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. You can proceed.
Okay, that's perfect. I was just saying the example that we have provided you with is just to give you a better understanding of the things that I was explaining, so that you can be able to then use them on your day-to-day when you're busy building up rates. So what we are busy pricing for here is an administration block construction of a community health center. So in building in your GBs, they will know this kind of structure is there. They will know that it's possible to price for it. But in that BOQ, I'll be focusing on your plastering. And then what I'll be focusing on is your 15 millimeter thick cement and sand rendering wall in 3 coats of trowel, excluding scaffolding. Why I make a note of this. It's always important that when we are doing a building rate, when we go to preliminaries and generals, we do account for things like scaffolding in terms of tools that will be used on site, since those are the small things that most of the time you won't need a subcontractor for. So they are accounted for in that rate. And then now the average output, what you can see there in the plastering is 31.5. That 31.5 is the work that a plaster can do in terms of square meter per day. So that your plasterer should be able to at least plaster 31.5 meters square in one day in order to be productive and to be more efficient. It's important to know this. If you've been to site, you need to at least see how many square meters does my plaster is able to achieve, so that tomorrow you can be able to say, oh, when you're pricing, my plaster can only plaster maybe 50 square meters or even 100 square meters if they are that good. So knowing this will be able to assist you in building up a rate. You'll see it as we move on. And then in this case, we're not going to be pricing for resources such as plant and machinery, because plant and machinery, we're talking about when you're hiring your rollers, your stampers, and things along those lines. So in these examples, we won't have that. That means in your plant and machinery is excluded. It's just your dagger boys with their spade and their trowels. And then moving forward, the key resource of labor. Of course, we will need labor. Labor is the people who will actually be working in your site. So in this case, the activity plus will have the labor type. We'll need the plasterer. That means it's a skilled plasterer. And we will need general workers. These are general assistants, your dagger boys. People will be mixing your dagger. And then how many of each? In this case, I'm putting 1 plasterer and 2 dagger boys. That means your hand boys. People are going to be assisting. And then we're talking about a meter squared per day. So that means your daily output, as I've said, is that if these 3 people are working together, they can be able to produce a 31.5 meters square on the wall per day. And then the unit of measurement, there is your day. And then the unit rate. That means how much am I going to pay my dagger boy and my plasterer on a day? How much I'm gonna pay for the semi-skilled and your skilled labor? For this, your units, it's 464. There's the unit rate for the plasterer per day, and the general assistance is 224 per plasterer. And then when we look at the amounts, there's your 464 and your 448 for the 2 plasterer. And then that means your total for labor it's 912 per day, not per, as I've said, the unit rate is as stated there. And then that is your total for labor. So all these unit rates and the daily production output. For those who already have the app, they will know that we have a resource which has every single spreadsheet that you see here. And for the others, we'll communicate at the end of this day how those sheets will be sent to you. And then the resources in terms of material. Initially, we're talking about the resources in terms of the laborer. Now we're talking about the materials that we are going to look at. Now we have your cement and you have your plaster sand. You know that cement, if it's not bought per ton, it's generally bought in bags. So we're saying per bag in square meter. And then plaster sand, we normally buy it in cubes. So we're saying a truck of 6 cubes or whatever the cubes. And then we're saying the usage output per square meter, there's your 0.12. And then for your plaster sand is your 0.023. And then the square meter per day, when you have mixed, it's still the same, 31.5. And then the required output to create that square meter of the whole day is 3.78. And then the unit price of a bag, it means that it's 89 Rand at your general building store, your builders, your cash build, and so on. They range around that price. Now, it's important that you put the price relevant to where you are going to be working. In terms of if you are working in KwaZulu-Natal, contact your rates must be from suppliers in KwaZulu-Natal. If you are working in Gauteng, your rates should be relevant to Gauteng. Your rates should be relevant to the country where you are busy pricing. So always keep that in mind when you're busy pricing. And then when we say the required rate daily times the unit price, which is 336.42, and then for your plaster sand per cube 563, which can vary depending on your supplier as well. And then your total cost for your material is 7443.34. Now, what is very important when you are busy dealing with material is always to include a certain percentage of wastage. This means that you're going to site, you're going to be building, whatever you are building or whatever you're doing, there will be some form of waste. So you need to account for your waste in your material. It's not like when you're installing a door, a door is a door. There's no waste in a door, maybe. But then now when you're dealing with your brickwork, you need to account for wastage. When you're dealing with your roof tile, you need to account for your wastage. The plaster, you need to account for your wastage. So we are allowing 5% of wastage, which is what is allowable in the industry. So with 5% of wastage, it comes to 781.57. And then now we're coming to our rate build up. Okay, we have our line of resources. I've already said our machinery. There's no machinery when you're busy plastering. And then our labors plus the tool, it's 912 as initially calculated above there. And then materials is 781 as initially calculated there. The total resource cost, that means when you adding up your labors and your material, it becomes 1.693.
Hello?
Sorry, yes?
Anissa Investment Group has raised their hand. Can you unmute and ask your question or say your comment? Thank you. Sorry about that, Rido.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, thanks. I was hoping she sees that.
I just wanted to know the spreadsheet that you have there. Can you make it available? Because I find it very interesting. I have another one there, but it does not have, especially the usage output and all these things. I think clients would definitely be interested to see this in order to execute the job better, and also to give them a better understanding of how we came about the prices that we quote. So in the ones that we have, we always just put in the rates that we know in our heads, but not specifically broken down like that.
Okay. To answer your question, I think Lunga has said that. Okay, what I said, sorry, is that in our app, all these spreadsheets are available in the resource button. And then for the other sharing of the spreadsheet, they will be able to communicate at the end of the whole presentation how they will share those, and moving forward, how you can be able to access this information that I'm busy sharing, but it's available for our clients.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, the total resource, as I was saying, is 1.693. And then the unit cost. So what the unit cost mean? It means that when I am, as I've said, is the important part, to say now I have all my material and my resources. Once I have that material and resources, this is where the 31 point, the resource unit that I was talking about, of the 31.5 I was talking about. So you're going to say your 1693.56 divided by your 31.5. Your 31.5 is the amount of work that one plasterer can be able to achieve. So that once we divide that amount, we get the 53.76. So that is your raw rate. By raw, it means that it's the cost of your material and your labor, no profit, nothing in it. That is just a rate. Once you have that rate of yours, now we need to allow 10% for material delays and handling. So what normally happens on site, there are a lot of things that they are beyond your control. That's why it's important when you're pricing to always make an allowance for those things that are beyond your control. You go to your build it, which is closest to you. You get there, you ordered cement, you've paid for it, and then they tell you, no, that cement is still coming from Joburg. Let's account for that thing because it's a delay on your side. Those are something that you don't know about, they're going to happen. Just account for them. So in this case, we're saying we're allowing your 10% of your delays and handling risks. And then we allow 2% of activity overheads. That means these are not the overheads of your company in terms of your staff in the office or not. That is accounted for in your preliminaries and general. But we are talking about your overheads in terms of this specific rate, in terms of building and so on. And then we are also making an allowance for profit. Now, profit is on your own discretion in terms of, you know, that I can finish this job in terms of if I get 15% profit, then I can be able to be happy. You can go as slow as 1% profit if you feel that, no, if I do 1% profit, I can manage. Or you can go as high as 100%. But remember, 100%, you're competing with other contractors. So always put that in mind. And then once you have added everything there is your rate built out that you can transfer to your bill. It's 68.28. That is your rate. Now, any of these things can be adjusted to suit your tender requirements. That is one thing that is very important. For example, you realize that to offload your cement, you might need a crane. That means immediately when you say, I'll need a crane, to offload cement. That means you will need to include your plant. But in most cases, they bring your cement, you offload it on site, you don't need any crane, and so on and so forth. So that is what normally happens when it comes to building up a building rate. So just at the bottom there, we're just giving you a list of all the documents that we have consulted when we were busy building this spreadsheet out, so that you can also be able to consult those areas and be able to get a comprehensive idea of what I was talking about. And then while Lunga is preparing for me my second example, in the example that I have presented so far, or in everything that I've presented, do we still, now is the time for you to bring out the questions that you may have, and then we can be able to tackle them as a group and see how best we can be able to assist each other. So I'm opening the floor for questions and interactions.
Yeah, questions or comments or something that is revealing about here's a question. Material exclude VAT. Can you answer the VAT question, please?
Okay, in this case, what normally happens when you go to your builders, your material will then be inclusive of VAT. Okay, the prices are would be generally inclusive of VAT, but I would say if you are going to include your VAT at the end of your tender, always make sure that you have excluded that VAT component on your rate build up.
And just to add on Rido's question, this is a very, very interesting question, because when our suppliers, if you think about it, when our suppliers are giving us quotes, their quote, remember, that is based on who is issuing an invoice or who is issuing a price. So their quote will actually include that. Plant hire companies, they will include that because they are responsible for collecting that every time they issue out a tax invoice. So that is their responsibility based on their revenue correction services or agency. So their code will definitely include that. Then where we come in, when we're receiving now these codes, we build them in based on suppliers, plant hire, and everything else, inclusive of that. However, remember, now I am a contractor. At the end, in the summary of my entire, let's say, 20-page or 1-page or 100-page BOQ, there's a section there that says summary, where I total up my cost. Then I add my own VAT now, right? Then I add my total cost plus VAT to give now the grand total, which will then be submitted as the offering. That VAT that I put in the end is for me, which is my company. But the VAT that I receive from all the suppliers is for those suppliers. I hope that I've clarified the issue as it relates to VAT.
Okay, now, thank you.
Sbu has raised his hand. Sbu,
Okay.
you can unmute and make a comment or ask a question. Either or, we welcome that engagement.
Hi. No, I wanted to add on what Rido was saying. So you hit it on the nail. I'm thinking that when we are using this spreadsheet, because obviously at the end of all your calculations, you are going to get to the point where you must add your VAT. So maybe when you get your codes from your suppliers, you need to remove the VAT and then build the rate, because this rate is exclusive of all kinds of taxes. And then when it gets to the end where you add your VAT, then you add it there, because if you're gonna add the VAT while you are building it up, and then you get to the end, and then you will be charging VAT double, because now you would have been charged, and then you build it in on your rate, and then at the end of the day, at the end of the calculations, you put the VAT again. You see, so that's where I was coming from.
Thanks, Boo. Any comments? Let's engage everyone. Let's see, is everything clear? Has there been new and valuable information that Ms. Rido has revealed to us? And is it something that we know that definitely we've made a note of this, and next time we are pricing, we're definitely going to include? So let's engage on the chat box so that we can see that people are there and people are live and people are following and they're getting value as we are going through before it switches over to the next meeting. Sorry, to the next presentation or other example.
I just wanted clarity on the first page of the presentation there. Maybe if we can go to the first page. I just have a point that I want to ask something there.
We have shown the first page of the presentation. Please ask your question.
That is not the first. The other one that is having points like things to consider.
Oh,
That one,
the
yes.
very first.
Yeah.
Okay. Please don't wait until we go down the line to ask that, please, sir.
Okay, sorry for
You
that.
can move at the same pace.
Sorry for that.
But nonetheless, it's fine. Let's quickly go to, there you go.
It was at because my network had a problem at breakdown. Yeah, that third point, the breakdown of all works and activities.
What?
Number 3.
Okay, you
Can
can
you
just
just
mute
explain
yourself
that
so that I
again?
can be.
Excuse
Yes,
me.
can you just mute yourself so that I can be able to assist you?
Okay.
So when I say breakdown of all activities that needs to be done, when we go to our example, the example that I'm making is for you to be able to know what you are pricing in terms of the breaking down of activities. You're talking that you're going to need in terms of you're going to need plastering people, in terms of labor, you're going to need materials in terms of your subcontractors and so on, and your suppliers, and so on. So that means you are breaking down to that activity you're plastering, you're breaking it down to smaller priceable activities that you can be able to quantify them and put a rate on those activities. So like the example that I was busy with, we're talking about, we have broken it down and we have realized that we don't need plant in this activity, but we do need labor, and we've broken that labor into small segments in terms of we need a skilled labor who's a plasterer, we'll need a non-skilled labor who's general assistant, your dagger boy, if you call them like that. And then moving forward, we also realize that we need material, and then we've broken down that material segment into terms of you'll need your plaster sand, and you also need your you'll need your bag of cement. So one thing that maybe I had not mentioned, when it comes to building tenders, when it comes to the segment of water, we already know that you are going to pay your municipal rates on your preliminaries and generals. So your water is accounted for in that part of your preliminaries and generals. That's why it's not included in your build-up rate. So those segments, I'm just saying, break it down to activities that you'll be able then to price them and make then you quantify it to say, oh, in this part of it I'll get this much, in this part of it I can be able to put so much. So that is what I mean. Did I answer your question?
Yes. Because I just had network issues, I didn't hear that point. Thank you so much.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, Bojana. I can see your comment. He's saying that he initially didn't make allowances on his build-up rates, so now he will start making those allowances. So he's landed maybe something new, which is good. Okay. Are there any further questions that we may have?
Yeah, I think it's cool. You can go to the next example. Maybe on the next example, we're going to get questions. But let's proceed to the next example, please. Thank you.
Okay, fine. We are still busy with the same tender, but this time around, we are busy with roofing. So now we are out of your plastering. We are just busy with roofing. So what we are doing here is just showing you, it's just showing you how we build up these rates that are in the PRM app, so that you can be able to see and understand how we got to the rates that we got to. And also, if the rates are not comprehensive enough for you, you can be able to build your own rates. So with that said, we're saying supply and lay interlocking concrete roof tiles. And then we're saying the roof tiles should be there. And then including the timber battens of 38 by 38 meters. So these roof tiles, they don't include the roof structure in terms of your trusses. We're just talking about roof tiles only. So when we talk about a roof tile, your roof trusses, we're talking about something else that we'll need to price somewhere else down on the same tender. So in this supply and interlock, in our tender, they say they want you to provide it in meters squared. And then they're saying the province that it's in Gauteng. Now, the province is very important to price province related, as I've explained previously. Now, in the PRM app, we have actually segmented every province and its prices, so that you don't have to struggle to say which province am I pricing. If you click to say I'm pricing in Northwest, then the price of Northwest will then show you on our app. And then moving forward, as I'm saying, the name of the activity is roofing. The key activities by saying how many square meters does our roofer is able to lay on a daily basis. Then we're saying he's about 67.5 square meters per day. That is the average production output for our roofing. So this can also help you when you're busy doing your project planning to say, oh, I've got how many square meters that needs to be done, and then those square meters, how many days do they need, and then you divide them accordingly. Same applies to the previous example. In this case, we don't really have a excessive plan that will need to hire that needs to be noted down. The more plant, I think when we go to civil works, you'll be able to see how plant and machinery is integrated and how you can do it. But for now, we're just busy with building works. And then the key resources of labor, we're saying in this case, I will need a carpenter. And then I see my typo error. I didn't change it when I was doing that. And then moving forward, you'll have your general worker, that means it's your assistant. So you have two guys there. And then your general output, you're saying both of them working together, they can make an output of 67.5 square meters per day. And then for your carpenter, you'll be paying him 582. And for the general worker, you'll be paying him 224 per day. And then moving forward, remember this unit rate for general laborers and workers, you can put them according to your company's needs, but this is what is regulated in South Africa in terms of how much laborers are to be paid. So I think when you're pricing, always consider that. And then moving forward, we have the key resources. Here we're talking about your roof tiles, including your needles and so on. And then we have your timber battens and for your roof covering support. And then moving forward, there in numbers, the usage output, how many tiles you will need. It's 702 per square meter that you'll do per day, per daily. In 1 square meter, you have 10.4 roof tiles. And then in 1 square meter, you have 3.14 timber battens. Timber battens in terms of the wood. Moving forward, that means per day, that person will be able to place about 702 tiles, and then the battens you would have placed 211.95. And then the price of the tile, the ranging price is around 10.4. That means the cost of one roof tile. And then the buttons around 50 Rand plus minus. And then moving forward, the price times the number of tiles, which is 7,300.8. And then the buttons is 10,597. That is the cost of your daily cost of your material. Then always remember, after you have added the two costs of your material wastage, we know that you are going to have cut-offs when you're putting up your tiles and your buttons. So always account 5% wastage of those cut-offs. And then moving forward, there are your labor and tools. That is your cost. And then your material cost, that is your cost of 18.93. And then we divide the total cost of your resources by the production output, which is 67.5, which gives you the 290.36. That means it's the cost of your material and your labor in a unit rate in terms of square meters. Then we make allowances of your material delays, which in this case, we put a 10% material delays and handling cost, and then allowing 2% activity overhead, and then allowing 15% of the profit and overhead. Sorry, the profits, just the profits. So as I've said, your profit is always at the discretion of you as the contractor. And then your overall price that you'll be transferring to the bill, it will be 368.78 for the laying, for the interlocking roof tiles, including supplying and installation. So just at the bottom, those are the resources that we also used when we were busy with these calculations. Okay, I've come to the end of my second example. Any questions on that or comments?
Perhaps I can just jump in, Zibo, first.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you for that. Thank you for a wonderful presentation. I think that we've learned a lot from the mistakes that we should avoid to the steps, and obviously application of the steps using various on-site information, and obviously at the discretion of us as estimators, as well as obviously at the merits of the projects that we're dealing with. I think the last point that I wanted to make there is that although these examples are South African examples, the software itself contains both South Africa and Namibia rates. We've used Namibian suppliers, specifically in Windhoek. And when we're doing our software application, I think we will take a Namibia BOQ and start pricing it so that you can see that it's both Namibia as well as South Africa. And then I think another estimator will then use a South African BOQ so that at least we can have a combination of both countries to show how comprehensive and exhaustive the system is. So thank you for that. So Namibian guys, please don't worry when you see the rands there. We also have accommodated you. And the beauty is that our currencies are more or less the same. 1 rand here is equal to 1 Namibian dollar that side. So you can follow the examples. But however, in terms of the referencing as well, we've used Namibian government policies for the labor. We've used material suppliers from Namibia to make sure that everything is conducive, or rather talks to your region and your country.
I just wanted to ask again if we are going to, if you guys will be able to provide us with this presentation, maybe in soft copy or something.
Thank you for that question. I think London will answer that towards the end, but I'm hoping a plan can be made in that regard. Obviously, with certain conditions, I think from their side as well. So I think definitely a plan can happen in terms of making sure that you guys have the presentations as well as the calculation sheets. Okay, I'll take, Rito, if you don't mind, I'll tackle Qiniso Langa. And then you can tackle, I think, Alistair Ashley. So Qiniso Langa, going back to the VET question. So what we explained is that when your suppliers are giving you their quotes are inclusive of that because they have a responsibility to their or SARS. Yeah. So which means that as a business, let's put it to you this way, and let me be very practical with you. If you are a VET vendor, a VET registered vendor, a tax invoice that you issue must be inclusive of that, because SARS will come at you because SARS is considering you as a VET collector. Yeah, right? So as a VET vendor, they must do that, and they issue to us as, let's say, a construction business. Once we have it as a construction business, we build up our rates. Now if we are VET vendors as well, right? When we put together the final summary and the total, usually at the end, you will see, even when an RFQ is put together or a BOQ is put together, the QSs that put that RFQ together in the summary sheet will always have total amount. Then they will have a section called VET, which means that they are aware that you need now add your own VET, not your supplier's VET, but your own VET, then you total it up. So that is how it is done, and I'm hoping that I've clarified the confusion there. Okay, Alistair Ashley, unmute and ask your question, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I followed a little bit of or most of the presentation, and I find it extremely good for my business. The only thing that I want to ask are basically, are there payment options when you do intend buying this program? One. The second question is it only for the building sector, or is that civil and electrical as well for this in a PRM?
London, I think that is your question, sir.
The card.
London, please unmute and answer that.
Yes, Mr. Alistair, we do provide civil, electrical, mechanical, and roadworks. So I will send you an inbox so that you can have the payment plan or how you're going to pay for if you want to purchase the software. I'll speak to you later once the presentation is done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got Chester Mahlangu raised their hand. Please comment, questions, or compliments. We welcome everything as long as it's engaging. Unmute and go ahead. Okay, Chester Mahlangu is not unmuting. If you can't unmute, please type in on the chat box and we can answer your question. I've got
Can you hear me?
investment yet again. Oh,
Can
Chester,
you hear me?
go for it.
Yes. Good day, everyone. I'm just my question is just straightforward. We've got a project that is up and running for water reticulation. So we were appointed with a certain amount, but my problem is that
Where are you going to, mommy?
the main contractor it's purchasing the material for subcontractors. So my question was that they're saying that they're gonna take that 15% for material. Hence, a lot of subcontractors they don't have a VAT. So my question is that how possible is that?
Can you ask your question again? I just want to listen to it very carefully. You are a subcontractor and you are supplying labor only. And the main contractor is giving you material, so you are priced for labor only. And
No,
you are not VAT registered. So
No,
carry
we-
on from there and see if I'm interpreting correctly.
basically it's more like a session because a lot of subcontractors they don't have money to buy material. Actually, we were supposed to buy material ourselves as subcontractors. So now the main contractor is supplying us with material, but it's gonna deduct the money for material, and also she's gonna charge us VAT for that.
Okay, can I answer that one, please?
Yes.
Very important. I think it goes back to Kuniso Laga's question as well. So let me paint this picture so that everyone can understand the scenario. The scenario is this: if I'm correct, you have priced for the works, including material. However, as subcontractors, you don't have money for material.
Yes.
And the contractor has offered to purchase the material.
Yes.
So when the contractor, now let's be clear about the sequence of events. When a supplier is quoting you or giving you an invoice, that invoice of the supplier, and let's be clear about the role players, that invoice of the supplier will include his VAT as a supplier. Let's be clear there.
Yes.
So therefore, we pay the supplier inclusive of his VAT, or rather, for a better word, inclusive of their VAT.
Yes.
I'm making sense. That's the total that you pay, right?
Okay.
So a contractor will then pay the supplier inclusive of their VAT. Then the material, right, arrives on site. Then what the contractor is supposed to do, in fact, they were supposed to ask you to break down all your rates so that they can see what you have allowed for in terms of material in a particular line item. And they will deduct that. Am I making sense to you?
Yes, I understand.
That, in principle, is how they are supposed to do it. I must also note that these arrangements are often very confusing, very unfair, depending on whoever you are dealing with. But to answer you, I think truthfully and in a very straightforward manner, the contractor was supposed to sit with you so that you can determine that in the rates that you have given them, you break it down. It goes back to the mistakes that we're talking about, wherein we just put a rate without breaking it down. They were supposed to sit with you so that you can give them the breakdown. Here in this line item, this is my material, this is my labor,
Yes.
this is my all the resources, and this is my profit margin. From then on, the contractor was supposed to assess that you've adequately put enough meat or enough fat for material in relation to how the market prices are going. After you negotiate and after he gives you the quotes directly from suppliers, you and them can negotiate now to say, okay, fine, maybe I might have underquoted here, so I'm going to take the knock. Here, I think I've priced well and everything else before a purchase from the supplier is done. That, in principle, is how this was supposed to be. The way that it's happening right now, it creates lack of transparency and it confuses everyone.
Yeah, because what they said to us, we should go and look for quotations, of which we did that. And I've asked them that, I mean, guys, here are my quotations. So can't we go and sit down and look at how much do you purchase your material? So then we can negotiate going forward on that. Still today, I'm still waiting.
That's exactly what I mean. That is how it was supposed to be done. And if they're not doing it like that, somewhere, somehow, they want to obviously exploit the situation. And they want to benefit.
Like they said you must go to the choice of your supplier, so then the main contractor can purchase the material for you. So, but anyway, Mr. I'm not gonna be too long. I don't know where can I get hold of you guys, because I'm on site as we speak.
London, can you please share your details on the chat box so that everyone can save your WhatsApp number and they can WhatsApp you directly? And I think that will that will sort everyone out. Okay, thanks, Chester. Let's just allow another question to come in from Merco Investments. Go for it, sir.
Yes, I just wanted clarity on the subcontracting issue, because my understanding is that if there's a tender out there, the main contractor quote for the work, but in case where now they want someone else to do the job on their behalf, they hire a subcontractor to do the job. So now, does the subcontractor need to quote for material as well now again?
Can I assist with the answer if possible?
Go for it.
Okay, so what you would have then done, and also what Lunga was trying to assist the previous question with, and what we would advise, and I have also been saying, is that when you're busy with your pricing, you will need to establish the subcontractors that you will need. And after establishing, you need to have some form of agreement on terms of the subcontractor. Is it subcontractor, labor only subcontractor, or is it labor and material, depending on the type of agreement that you guys have. In most cases, you find that the main contractor is willing then to supply you with material as a subcontractor, or you as a contractor, you're saying, no, I will supply them with material. They can only come with their labor. So that means you need to provide them with a labor rate only. That means your labor rate must include your profit on that labor rate. So when you give them that rate to say, oh, my labor rate is 200 per day. In that 200, make sure that you have included your profits so that you as a subcontractor can be able then to benefit. But it all depends on what you guys have agreed on. Sometimes you find that the subcontractor is the one who specializes with that specific material. That means they will need to quote you on the material and the labor. And that means as a main contractor, you should have already accounted for that. When they give you their material and their labor rate, you need to also include your profit so that you can only account for handling of them as a subcontractor. So I think there are various ways we can handle it, but it all depends on what you guys have agreed on and always remember to account for your specific profit. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Rido. Those are very interesting questions, engaging questions, guys. And now I think that we're becoming more and more confident in the fact that, number one, we're getting value. Number two, key questions are being asked, and they're in relation to the current challenges that we're facing, both even when we're doing active projects or rather we are pricing. So I think that's the most important thing. Those engagements, those questions, those comments, please keep them coming so that we make sure that we are addressing your need as accurately as possible. So I think in the interest of time, we're going to switch over now to the second part, I think to the civil works session. So what I'm going to do, again, to manage the recording length, I'm going to stop recording this particular section and I'm going to start a new recording, which is only the civil works. This will then allow for the guys who will be receiving the recordings to consume it in a manner that is nimble, or rather that is edible for them to actually move through the topics of the day. So let's quickly stop the recording here.